It was a quiet, peaceful night on Earth. The stars twinkled above, casting a soft glow on the world below. In a small suburban neighborhood, a young girl named Sarah was playing in her backyard. She was enjoying the calm evening, chasing fireflies with a smile on her face, unaware that her life was about to change forever. Suddenly, without any warning, the night sky lit up in a flash of blinding light. Sarah froze in place, staring up at the sky, her heart racing. The light grew brighter and larger, swallowing the stars as a massive spacecraft descended rapidly. There was no time to run, no time to scream. The ship's powerful tractor beams reached out and gripped her like an invisible hand, pulling her upwards into the cold, dark void above. As she was lifted into the air, Sarah struggled, but the pull was too strong. Her cries were swallowed by the night as she was taken. The world she knew vanished, leaving only a cold emptiness behind her. The ship, sleek and dark, hummed with power as it sped away from Earth. She could only watch, helpless, as the world she loved grew smaller and smaller. Inside the ship, Sarah was locked in a cold, sterile cell. The walls hummed with the sound of advanced machinery, and harsh artificial lights flickered overhead. She was alone. Terrified. She didn't understand what was happening or why she had been taken. All she knew was that she had been kidnapped by something that wasn't human, something far beyond her understanding. Unseen and unheard, the Galactic Council, an alliance of powerful alien species, watched from afar. They were a force that had conquered countless worlds across the galaxy, each race more technologically advanced than the last. To them, humans were nothing more than an insignificant species, ripe for experimentation. Their intelligence, their strength, and their potential for rebellion were seen as threats. The Council believed that humans could never rise to challenge their authority. Sarah had been chosen, not by chance, but as part of a cold, calculated plan. The Council had long believed that humans were too weak, too primitive to pose any danger to their empire. They wanted to prove it once and for all. And Sarah, just a child, was the perfect subject to begin their tests. To them, she was nothing more than a tool in their twisted game of dominance. Back on Earth, in a dark and secure underground base, Earth's military leaders had just received their first message. It wasn't clear, nor was it complete, but it was enough to send chills down their spines. A distress signal. Fragmented, distorted, but unmistakable. The voice was faint, but they could hear a young girl's scream echoing through the transmission. Sarah. Her voice, full of fear, sent a clear message: she was in danger. The message cut off abruptly, leaving Earth's leaders scrambling. They had no idea who had taken her, but they knew it was no ordinary enemy. Earth had no defense against an attack like this. Whoever had abducted Sarah was not of this world. The situation was far worse than they had imagined. Commander X, the leader of a secret human resistance group, watched the fragmented signal on his screen. He had been tracking strange alien activity for months, ever since the first rumors of the Galactic Council's reach had begun to surface. But this was different. This was personal. Commander X knew the Council had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated humanity. With cold determination, he activated his team's emergency protocol. "Prepare for extraction," he said, his voice unwavering. "We don't leave anyone behind." The rebellion was small, scattered, and underfunded, but they were fierce, and they knew how to fight against enemies much larger and more powerful. They had a secret weapon: human ingenuity. But time was against them. Sarah's abduction was not just a random act of violence, it was the beginning of a much darker plan. The Galactic Council had been preparing for this moment for years. They had been experimenting on the most dangerous species in the galaxy, testing their limits and proving their superiority. But the Council had never encountered humans before, at least, not like this. The Council had a long history of experimenting on other species, pushing them to their breaking points, testing their strength, their will to survive. But humans, with their unpredictable nature and fierce desire to fight back, presented a new challenge. They had not yet seen what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge. As Sarah sat in her cold cell, she could feel her mind racing. Her body ached from the rough treatment, but her spirit was unbroken. She was scared, of course, she was, but she wasn't going to give in. She would fight. She had to. She didn't know why she had been chosen, but she understood one thing: she wasn't just a victim. She was a symbol. A symbol of humanity's resilience. And if the Council wanted to break her, they would have to kill her first. Back on Earth, Commander X and his team were preparing for their most dangerous mission yet. They had no time to waste. Every minute counted. They didn't know where Sarah was being held or what the Council had planned for her, but they knew they couldn't sit by and wait. They had to act, and they had to act now. In the darkened control room, the team worked quickly. Advanced technology hummed around them, and their eyes burned with determination. The rebels knew that if they didn't rescue Sarah, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for her, but for humanity itself. "Commander, we've tracked her location," one of the technicians called out. "It's on a Council ship, somewhere in deep space. We can't get a direct line, but we've pinpointed its last known coordinates." "Good," Commander X replied. "We're going in. Prepare the fleet. We'll bring her home." As the rebels scrambled to prepare, the camera zoomed in on Sarah's face. Her eyes were filled with fear, but also a fierce determination. She was scared, yes, but she was far from broken. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that humanity would never stop fighting. They would come for her. And they would come for the Council. Time was ticking, and the war was about to begin. The night sky was filled with the distant hum of the rebellion's ships, as Commander X and his team prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The stakes had never been higher. Sarah, a young girl, had been taken by the Galactic Council, and now, it was time to get her back. Earth's military, though small, was determined. Under Commander X's leadership, they had formed a ragtag resistance that had one clear goal: to save Sarah and stop the Council's cruel experiments. Using cutting-edge cloaking technology, Earth's fleet was ready to slip past the Galactic Council's defenses unnoticed. The fleet, though not as powerful as the alien forces, had an advantage: human ingenuity and the element of surprise. As the fleet neared the orbiting space station of the Galactic Council, every heartbeat seemed to echo in the silence of the cockpit. The mission was simple: infiltrate the station, rescue Sarah, and get out without being detected. But, of course, nothing in this war was ever simple. Commander X stood at the helm, his hands gripping the controls as he studied the space station on the screen. It was massive, floating like a mechanical moon in the void of space. The Council's technology was far more advanced than Earth's, but Commander X wasn't about to let that stop him. The Resistance knew they had to act quickly. Time was running out. "We've entered the station's perimeter," Commander X's voice crackled over the intercom, his tone calm but firm. "Stay focused, and remember, don't engage unless absolutely necessary." The human ships, cloaked and nearly invisible, moved through the darkness, gliding silently toward the heart of the space station. The mission was in full swing, but Commander X couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. The station seemed eerily quiet, too quiet. His instincts told him to expect the unexpected. As the fleet approached their destination, the silence was shattered by the sudden blare of alarms. A series of AI-controlled turrets whirred to life, lighting up the dark space with laser beams that streaked across the ship's hull. The station's defense system had detected the breach. "Take evasive maneuvers," Commander X shouted. His ship swerved sharply, narrowly dodging a blast that could have torn them apart. The cloaking technology was still working, but the AI-controlled turrets were becoming more aggressive, reacting to their presence with terrifying speed. The rebels' ships engaged their own weapons, using short bursts of energy to disable the turrets. But they couldn't afford to be caught. They were outgunned, outmatched, and every minute they spent fighting took them further away from their goal. Their mission was clear: rescue Sarah. But as the team plunged deeper into the station, they quickly realized the true horrors waiting for them. Inside, the station's halls were vast, cold, and metallic. The scent of sterile air and the hum of alien machinery filled the atmosphere. As the rebels made their way through the corridors, they were met with opposition that no one had prepared them for. Enormous alien robots, towering over 10 feet tall, patrolled the station. Their eyes glowed with a menacing red light, and their metal bodies. The rebels fought valiantly, using their AI-assisted combat drones to take down the machines, but there were too many of them. The robots moved with precision, their weapons tearing through the air with deadly accuracy. For every robot they destroyed, 2 more seemed to appear from the shadows. "Keep moving," Commander X ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. He was a seasoned leader, but even he knew the odds were against them. In the midst of the firefight, the rebels stumbled upon something that shook them to their core. As they infiltrated deeper into the station, they came across a series of cold, dark cells. Inside the cells, human children, dozens of them, were imprisoned. They looked pale and exhausted, their eyes wide with fear, their bodies battered from years of experimentation. Among them, Sarah was found, her body bruised and weak, but her spirit unbroken. As Commander X approached, Sarah's eyes locked onto his. She didn't speak at first, her voice lost in the horror of her captivity. But then, in a hoarse whisper, she managed to speak. They're doing this to all of us," Sarah gasped. "They've taken so many children. We're part of their experiments." The realization hit like a punch to the gut. The Galactic Council wasn't just torturing Sarah, they were conducting cruel experiments on multiple children, trying to break the human spirit. They believed that by destroying these innocent lives, they could prove humanity's inferiority, their weakness. And the Council wasn't just targeting one child, this was a systematic attempt to crush every bit of hope left in humanity. "We have to get them all out of here," Commander X said, his voice cold with fury. The mission was no longer just about rescuing Sarah, it was about saving every single human child and stopping the Council's twisted experiments once and for all. But as they began the evacuation, disaster struck. The station's security system activated fully. More robots poured in, their red eyes glowing with menace as they advanced toward the humans. A massive group of robots stormed the hall, cutting off the team's escape route. The situation was growing desperate. One of the rebels, Bonner, a tall and brave soldier, realized there was no way they could escape with all the children in time. With no hesitation, he turned to Commander X and his team. "I'll hold them off," Bonner said, his voice firm. "Get Sarah and the others to safety. I'll buy you the time you need." "No, Bonner. You don't have to," Commander X started, but Bonner was already charging toward the robots, his weapon raised high. Bonner's sacrifice was the only way to ensure the children's survival. As the rest of the team rushed to safety, they could hear Bonner's voice crackling over the comms, his last words hauntingly clear: "Never give up. Fight for the future." Bonner's death fueled the remaining rebels with a new sense of purpose. His sacrifice wasn't in vain. They had to finish what they started: rescue every human child, stop the Council, and take back their freedom. The team managed to escape the station with Sarah and the others, their hearts heavy with the weight of Bonner's sacrifice. But as they fled, Commander X's mind burned with one thought: this was only the beginning. The war against the Galactic Council had just started, and humanity would fight back with everything they had. As the ship hurtled back toward Earth, the rebels swore to avenge Bonner's death and make sure that no other child would ever suffer the same fate. The resistance was just getting started, and they would make the Galactic Council pay for every innocent life they had taken. The fight for humanity's survival was far from over. The escape from the Galactic Council's orbiting space station was a hard-fought victory, but as the rebel ship raced through the void of space, the weight of what had just occurred began to settle in. Sarah, the young girl who had been the key to this daring mission, was now in their care. But the rescue had not come without a cost. Bonner, a brave rebel, had sacrificed his life so that the others could escape. His death hung heavy in the hearts of the survivors, but it was Sarah, though physically alive, who carried the greater burden. As the ship continued its journey back to Earth, Sarah lay in a makeshift medical bay, her body trembling with shock. She had been through unspeakable horrors, her young mind shattered by the torture she had endured at the hands of the Galactic Council. Despite her physical injuries, her spirit was strong. It was a strength that would come to symbolize the very essence of humanity's resistance. Commander X paced the room, his mind constantly racing over their next move. He knew that this was only the beginning of a war that would define the future of humanity. Hours passed before Sarah stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, and she blinked against the harsh light of the medical bay. Her gaze flickered around the room, her mind still foggy, trying to make sense of her surroundings. She wasn't sure where she was or how she had gotten there, but she knew one thing: the nightmare wasn't over yet. Commander X was by her side immediately, his face a mixture of relief and concern. "Sarah," he said gently, his voice soft yet firm. "You're safe now. You're on our ship. We're getting you home." For a moment, she said nothing. But then, her lips parted, and in a voice barely above a whisper, she spoke, her words carrying the weight of everything she had endured. "The Galactic Council. They don't just want to conquer Earth," Sarah began, her eyes distant as the memories of her torment resurfaced. "They plan to enslave humanity. They want to break our spirit and force Earth's leaders to bow to them. It's not just about testing our strength or proving we're inferior. They want to rule us. Control us. We're just tools to them." Commander X felt his blood run cold as Sarah's words sank in. The Council's plans were even more twisted than he had imagined. This wasn't just an experiment to see if humans could be broken, it was a full-scale effort to crush humanity and take over the planet. He had been prepared for a war, but this was something far worse. The fate of Earth was hanging by a thread, and now, more than ever, he understood just how high the stakes were. But even as Sarah spoke, her voice trembling with fear and pain, there was a fire in her eyes. Despite everything the Council had done to her, she wasn't broken. She had survived, and she had a message for the rebels, a message that would set the stage for the future of humanity. "I couldn't break," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger with every word. "And neither will you. They'll never break us. We're not their slaves, and we never will be." Her words echoed in the hearts of the rebels, stirring something deep within them. Commander X felt a surge of determination. He had seen many soldiers break under pressure, but Sarah, this young girl, had become the embodiment of humanity's strength. If she could survive, then they could fight back. And fight back they would. Sarah's resilience became the spark that lit the fire in the hearts of the rebels. They were no longer fighting just for survival, they were fighting for freedom, for the right to live as they chose, free from the oppressive grasp of the Galactic Council. The mission was far from over. Now that they understood the true extent of the threat, the next step was clear: they had to send a message that would echo across the galaxy and tell the Council, once and for all, that humanity would never bow to them. Commander X wasted no time in rallying his team. He knew that the Council was listening, watching, and waiting. They had already taken Sarah, but they wouldn't stop there. They would keep pushing, keep experimenting, until humanity had been broken and enslaved. But the rebellion had other plans. In the command center of their ship, the team worked quickly. The plan was simple: infiltrate the Galactic Council's encrypted communications network and send a message. A message that would reverberate throughout their entire empire. But getting into their network wouldn't be easy. The Council's encryption was nearly impenetrable, and even with all their technology, they were no match for the advanced AI systems that guarded the network. But the rebels had something the Council didn't: ingenuity. They had spent years developing a system that could break into the network, a method that used a combination of cloaking technology and human-made AI to bypass the Council's defenses. It wasn't perfect, and they knew the risks were high, but they had no other choice. Time was running out. As Commander X's team worked quickly, the screen flashed with a dizzying array of data, streams of alien code cascading across the screen like a digital waterfall. But then, with a sudden jolt, the encryption began to crack. The system faltered, and for the first time, the rebels had a window into the Council's secrets. On the screen, images of alien cities, massive warships, and strange, otherworldly landscapes filled the room. The rebels had broken through the Council's defenses, and in that moment, they saw just how vast and powerful their enemy was. It was a vision of impending doom, a reminder of the overwhelming force the Council commanded. But this was their chance. With a few quick commands, Commander X's team sent the signal. The message was simple, yet powerful: humanity will never bow to the Galactic Council. We will fight. We will survive. And we will win. The message blasted across the galaxy, disrupting the Council's communication systems and leaving them with one clear message: humanity was not going down without a fight. As the signal spread throughout the galaxy, Commander X stood tall, his heart burning with the fire of rebellion. Sarah's strength had ignited something deep within them all, and now, there was no turning back. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The screen went dark, and for a moment, there was silence. But that silence was broken by the sound of every rebel in the room, their voices echoing with the same resolve: we will fight. Humanity had sent its message. Now, the battle for the future of Earth was about to begin. The rebellion had begun, and Earth was now fully aware of the true nature of the Galactic Council's plans. The abduction of Sarah, the young girl who had become the symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit, had triggered a chain reaction. Earth's leaders, who had once been in the dark about the Council's intentions, now stood united in their resolve to fight back. The message sent by Commander X had echoed across the galaxy, and the Galactic Council knew that humanity would not go down quietly. The Council, overconfident in their advanced technology and vast military might, believed that Earth would be an easy target. They thought that their superior weapons and unrelenting forces would crush the human resistance in no time. To them, Earth was nothing more than a primitive world full of weak creatures who could not stand against their technologically superior fleets. But what they didn't know was that humanity had a secret weapon, one that could turn the tide of the war. Earth had been preparing for this day for years, building an AI-enhanced fleet of ships that could cloak themselves from the Council's sensors. The humans had spent countless hours studying the Council's tactics and weaknesses, learning how to fight smart rather than relying on sheer numbers. Now, the time had come to put their plan into action. The Galactic Council sent a full invasion fleet, consisting of thousands of warships, toward Earth. The fleet was massive, and the Council commanders were confident that they would destroy Earth's defenses with ease. However, they were not prepared for what awaited them. Epic space battle. As the Council's fleet entered the solar system, they were met with the unexpected. Earth's fleet, cloaked and hidden among the stars, struck first. The Council ships, unable to detect the humans until it was too late, were ambushed by Earth's guerrilla tactics. The cloaked human ships darted in and out of the shadows, firing precision shots that disabled key components of the enemy fleet. A thrilling space dogfight unfolded before the eyes of both sides. Human pilots, trained in the art of surprise and cunning, used their cloaked ships to dodge enemy fire and launch attacks with deadly accuracy. It was a battle of wits, with the humans outsmarting the technologically superior invaders at every turn. The speed and agility of the human fleet gave them an edge, and the Council's massive ships, unable to track the smaller, faster human vessels, were picked off one by one. The space battle raged for hours. Explosions filled the void, lighting up the darkness of space like fireworks. Earth's ships darted and weaved through enemy fire, their cloaks flickering in and out as they evaded detection. The invaders were losing ship after ship, and their commanders were left scrambling, unsure of how to handle such an unpredictable and skilled foe. It was a hard-fought victory for the humans. Against all odds, they had won the battle. The Council's invasion fleet, which had once seemed invincible, was now in disarray, its forces crippled and scattered. The humans had done what many thought impossible, they had taken down one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. But the victory, as sweet as it was only a small part of a much larger war. Commander X and his team knew that the Council would not rest, that this was only the beginning of a long and brutal conflict. The humans had gained a foothold, but they had only scratched the surface of the Council's might. There would be more battles to come, more sacrifices to make, and more losses to endure. Emotional depth. After the battle, the humans gathered on their ships in the aftermath of their hard-won victory. The air was thick with a mixture of relief and grief. Though the humans had been successful, many of their comrades had fallen. The cost of war had already begun to show its ugly face. Commander X and Sarah stood together on the deck of their ship, looking out at the stars. The battle had been a victory, but it had also been a reminder of what was at stake. The Council would retaliate, and the next battle could be even more difficult than the last. They knew that the war was far from over, but for now, they allowed themselves a moment of quiet reflection. Sarah, though still shaken by everything she had experienced, was determined. She had seen her comrades die, but she had also seen the resilience of humanity. It was that resilience that had fueled their victory. She had been tortured and tested by the Galactic Council, but she had come out stronger. Now, standing with Commander X, she understood what it meant to fight for something bigger than yourself. "I never thought we could win," Sarah said, her voice quiet but strong. "I thought we were too weak, too small. But after today, I see it's not about how big you are or how powerful you are. It's about how much you're willing to fight. And we're willing to fight." Commander X nodded, his face serious but with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "You're right," he said. "It's not about the size of the enemy. It's about the strength of our will. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to make sure Earth doesn't fall to them." They stood in silence for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts, but both resolute in their commitment to the cause. The loss of their comrades weighed heavily on their hearts, but their victory had proven one thing: the Galactic Council was not invincible. They had vulnerabilities, just like any other enemy. And now that humanity had proven its ability to strike back, the fight for Earth had truly begun. The rebellion was gaining momentum. Earth's fleets were only growing stronger, their tactics more refined. Every victory, no matter how small, brought humanity one step closer to defeating the Galactic Council and reclaiming their planet. But the road ahead would be long, and the cost would continue to be high. With renewed determination, Commander X turned to Sarah, who was now the symbol of human resilience. "We've just begun," he said. "And we're not stopping until we win." As the fleet prepared for the next battle, humanity stood united. The war for Earth's future had escalated, and the human rebellion was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The victory Earth had secured in the previous battle was short-lived. The Galactic Council, enraged by the unexpected defeat, was not one to back down easily. Their response came swiftly, and this time, they were prepared to strike harder than ever before. Earth's forces had already dealt a significant blow to their invasion fleet, but the Council had a devastating secret weapon that they had been holding in reserve: a fleet of fully autonomous war machines, designed to wipe out all human life in a matter of hours. These war machines were not like the ones Earth had faced before. They were a creation of the Council's most advanced artificial intelligence, completely self-sufficient and incapable of being reasoned with or bargained with. The machines were designed to be unstoppable, each one capable of annihilating entire cities with their advanced weaponry. The Council's fleets had failed, but now they unleashed their robotic force, a relentless wave of metal that seemed impossible to defeat. As the machines descended on Earth, the human resistance felt the weight of their failure. The mood among the soldiers was bleak. They had fought so hard to win the last battle, and now they were faced with an enemy unlike anything they had encountered. Earth's forces were outmatched and outgunned, and for the first time, there was a sense of doubt among the soldiers. The machines were everywhere, on the ground, in the sky, and in space, overwhelming humanity's defenses. The Resistance's morale faltered as Earth's forces struggled to hold their ground against the relentless onslaught of autonomous war machines. Every attempt to fight back seemed futile, as the machines adapted to human tactics, constantly evolving and becoming harder to destroy. The battlefield became a grim place, where the bodies of fallen soldiers piled up, and humanity's hope for survival. Action sequence. In the midst of this chaos, Sarah refused to give up. Her strength, which had been tested in the hands of the Galactic Council, had only grown stronger. She remembered the sacrifice of Bonner, who had given his life to save her. His final words had ignited a fire within her, a fire that refused to be extinguished. She knew that humanity's only hope was to fight back, and she was willing to do whatever it took to help win this war. Sarah had spent weeks studying the technology of the Galactic Council, learning everything she could about their advanced systems. As the autonomous war machines continued to decimate Earth's defenses, she realized that there was a weakness in their design, something that could be exploited. Using her intelligence and knowledge of the Council's technology, Sarah devised a daring plan. She would create a virus, a piece of code that could infiltrate the machine systems and shut them down. It was a risky move, one that could endanger her life, but Sarah knew there was no other option. If the virus worked, it could disable the war machines and give Earth a fighting chance. She had to move quickly, before the machines wiped out more of humanity's forces. With her heart racing, Sarah sat at a makeshift console, typing furiously as she crafted the virus. Every second counted. The machines were advancing, and Earth's defenses were crumbling. Sarah knew that the Resistance needed this one last shot at survival. If the virus worked, it would be humanity's chance to turn the tide of the war. The team, led by Commander X, fought valiantly to hold back the machines, knowing that Sarah was the key to their success. The human soldiers fought with everything they had, but they were outnumbered and outclassed. The machines pressed forward, their mechanical limbs crushing everything in their path. As Sarah finished the virus, she took a deep breath. It was now or never. She transmitted the virus through a hidden channel, sending it straight into the heart of the Council's robotic force. The moment it entered their systems, there was a sudden shift. The machines that had once been unstoppable froze in place. Then, one by one, they began to shut down, their weapons silencing as they powered off. For a brief moment, there was a sense of relief. The tide of the battle had changed. Earth's forces surged forward, taking advantage of the sudden lull in the enemy's advance. They destroyed the remaining war machines, striking swiftly and decisively. It was a moment of victory that had seemed impossible just moments before. Key moment. But the victory came at a cost. As the machines began to fall, one last explosion erupted from the heart of the battlefield. Sarah, who had been near the epicenter of the virus's transmission, was caught in the blast. The explosion sent her flying, and she crashed to the ground, unconscious and severely wounded. Commander X and the rest of the team rushed to her side, hearts pounding in their chests. The battlefield around them was still filled with the sound of explosions, but their focus was solely on Sarah. They found her lying in the dirt, her body battered and bruised, but her chest still rising and falling with shallow breaths. "Sarah!" Commander X shouted, kneeling beside her. He shook her gently, his voice filled with concern. "Sarah, stay with me." Sarah stirred, her eyes flickering open. She was weak, but she managed a faint smile, the kind that showed the determination that had carried her through all the horrors she had faced. We did it," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We stopped them." Commander X's face softened with relief, but there was no time to waste. They needed to get Sarah medical help, and fast. The victory was bittersweet, as they had lost so many comrades along the way, but Sarah's actions had saved them all. She had become the symbol of hope, not just for the rebellion, but for all of humanity. As the team carried Sarah away from the battlefield, they knew that the war was far from over. The Council would not give up so easily, and there would be more battles ahead. But for now, humanity had won a crucial victory, and the resistance had gained a newfound hope. The fight was far from finished, but with Sarah leading them, the human rebellion was stronger than ever. The time had come for the final battle, the last chance to end the Galactic Council's reign of terror. Earth's forces, now stronger than ever, were ready to launch their full-scale assault on the Council's home planet, a world that was the heart of their power. The Council had been preparing for this moment for years, knowing that one day, humanity would rise up against them. The planet was heavily fortified, surrounded by layers of defense and protected by the most advanced AI-controlled soldiers and alien warriors the galaxy had ever seen. But the humans were not alone. In the months leading up to this final showdown, Earth had formed alliances with several alien species who had also suffered under the Council's tyranny. These allies, once neutral or even enemies, had now united with humanity in their fight for freedom. Together, they formed a diverse and powerful army, ready to take on the full might of the Council. As Earth's forces prepared to assault the planet, Commander X and Sarah stood side by side, their resolve unshaken. They knew the stakes were higher than ever. If they failed here, the entire galaxy would fall under the Council's control. But if they succeeded, humanity would not only survive, but thrive. This was the final battle, the last chance to put an end to the Council's tyranny once and for all. The first wave of attacks came in the form of orbital bombardments. Earth's fleet launched a series of precise strikes from space, targeting the Council's massive defense structures. The explosions lit up the sky, sending shockwaves through the planet's surface. But the Council's defenses were far stronger than anything Earth had encountered before. Massive shields absorbed most of the blasts, and powerful counterattacks soon rained down on Earth's ships. The battle was fierce, with every ship in the human fleet fighting to break through the planet's defenses. Cinematic combat. The battle raged on, both in space and on the surface. The human forces descended upon the planet's surface in dropships, their cloaking technology masking their approach as they deployed in enemy territory. The ground was torn apart by explosions as Earth's soldiers clashed with the Council's elite troops, warrior aliens and robotic soldiers trained for this moment. It was a brutal, all-out war, with no mercy given on either side. Commander X and Sarah led their forces directly to the planet's heart, where the Council's leadership awaited. Their destination was the Council's main command center, an imposing structure surrounded by vast defenses. As the two heroes advanced through the wreckage of the battlefield, they were met with overwhelming resistance. Alien warriors charged at them, their advanced weapons firing relentlessly. The sound of gunfire and explosions filled the air as Sarah and Commander X fought side by side, cutting through enemy forces with unmatched precision. Commander X was a battle-hardened leader, skilled in hand-to-hand combat and tactics. His strength and leadership inspired his soldiers to push forward despite the overwhelming odds. Sarah, though still scarred from her experiences, had become a symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit. Her mind, sharp and focused, led them through the chaos. She wasn't just fighting for survival anymore, she was fighting for vengeance, for freedom, for every life that had been lost in this war. The two of them fought their way through wave after wave of alien warriors and automated drones. As they neared the Council's command center, the final showdown loomed. Commander X would face the Council's ruthless general, a creature of pure malice and strength, while Sarah prepared to take control of the Council's AI network and turn their own technology against them. Key event. The Council's general was a towering figure, a being forged in the heart of war. He had been the Council's most feared enforcer, a ruthless tactician who had led many successful campaigns across the galaxy. As Commander X stepped forward to face him, the air seemed to thicken with tension. Their final battle would determine the fate of the galaxy. The two locked eyes, each knowing that this was the moment they had been preparing for. With a roar, the general charged at Commander X, his massive weapon aimed straight at his chest. The two warriors collided in a fierce clash, the sound of metal striking metal ringing through the battlefield. It was a fight of pure willpower. X, fueled by his love for humanity, and the general, fueled by his unrelenting loyalty to the Council. The ground beneath them cracked as they exchanged blows, each refusing to yield. It was a battle of strength, skill, and determination, and both warriors gave it everything they had. Meanwhile, Sarah had reached the heart of the Council's AI system. She had hacked into the mainframe, bypassing its sophisticated security systems. She was in the final stages of breaking through when a flood of enemy reinforcements arrived. They came at her from all directions, but Sarah's focus never wavered. She knew what was at stake. If she could take control of the Council's AI, she could turn the tide of the battle in humanity's favor. With one final keystroke, Sarah unleashed the virus she had been working on for months. The AI system that had once controlled the Council's forces began to glitch and falter. Then, with a catastrophic pulse, the AI turned on its creators. It sent waves of disruption through the entire Council network, causing their forces to malfunction, freeze, and fall under human control. The AI, once a tool of oppression, became the greatest weapon in humanity's arsenal. As the Council's defenses crumbled and their forces turned against them, the final blow was struck. Commander X, with all his strength, delivered a devastating blow to the Council's general. The general, once thought unbeatable, collapsed in defeat. With the general's fall, the last of the Council's resistance crumbled. Victory! Earth's forces surged forward, taking the command center and securing the planet. The war was over. The Galactic Council had been defeated, and humanity had triumphed. As Sarah and Commander X stood together on the planet's surface, the skies above them cleared. The fight had been brutal, and they had lost many along the way, but in the end, humanity had prevailed. They had faced the impossible and come out victorious. It was a hard-won peace, but it was a peace that would last. The galaxy had been changed forever, and humanity had shown the universe that they would not bow down to anyone, not even the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. The human spirit had proven stronger than any force, and with that, the galaxy would never be the same. The dust had finally settled, and the war was over. The Galactic Council, once an unstoppable force, had been shattered. Earth's forces, along with their newfound allies, had won an unimaginable victory. But the triumph came at a devastating cost. Thousands of soldiers, rebels, and innocent lives had been lost in the brutal conflict. Among them were several of the key members of the resistance who had fought valiantly alongside Commander X and Sarah. The final battle had been a test of human strength, not just in combat, but in spirit. Sarah, who had once been a frightened young girl, had emerged as a symbol of humanity's resilience. Her survival, despite the unimaginable horrors she had endured at the hands of the Council, had inspired millions. Her name was now known across the galaxy, her story a beacon of hope and defiance against oppression. But the victory felt bittersweet. Every life lost, every sacrifice made, weighed heavily on those who remained. Sarah stood in the memorial hall, surrounded by the faces of the fallen. Their sacrifices would never be forgotten. As the camera zoomed in on her face, a mixture of sorrow and determination reflected in her eyes. She had lost many friends, including Bonner, whose final words had inspired her to push forward when all seemed lost. But through it all, she had kept fighting. She had kept pushing. And now, Earth was free. She had done her part in the war, but her work was far from over. The leaders of the resistance, including Commander X, gathered for a private ceremony to honor their fallen comrades. Commander X, once a hardened soldier, now looked every bit the leader. His face was weary, his eyes heavy with grief, but there was also pride. The fight had been long and brutal, but they had succeeded. Earth had reclaimed its future. Still, the weight of their losses hung over him. He walked up to Sarah, placing a hand on her shoulder. She had saved them all. And now, he would make sure the people of Earth would never forget the sacrifices made in this war. "Sarah," Commander X said softly, "we did it. But we did it together." Sarah nodded, her voice steady. "We couldn't have done it without them." They looked out over the memorial, their thoughts drifting to the comrades who would never return. The world had changed, but the cost of that change was something that would stay with them forever. Earth had won, but at a terrible price. Victory and future. Though the victory was hard-earned, it had brought Earth and its people a new sense of purpose. The galaxy was no longer a place where they were weak, where they were prey to a powerful empire. They had proven themselves. Humanity had not only fought back, but they had emerged victorious. The Council's fall meant that no one, not even the most powerful alien empire in the galaxy, could subjugate Earth again. As Earth began the long process of rebuilding, Sarah stood on the steps of the new government headquarters. She looked out over the horizon, where new cities were rising from the ruins of the old. The resistance had become the foundation of a new Earth, one that was united, stronger, and more determined than ever. The scars of war would remain, but they were no longer a reminder of humanity's defeat. They were a testament to the strength, the resilience, and the unity of the human spirit. Commander X, who had led the resistance through its darkest days, now stood beside Sarah, watching as the future of Earth began to take shape. His eyes were filled with hope, and though the pain of loss still lingered, there was a sense of accomplishment that could not be denied. He knew the sacrifices had been worth it. Earth was free, and the future was theirs to shape. The people of Earth, and their allies, were working side by side to rebuild. New alliances were being forged with the alien species who had fought alongside them. Together, they would create a future of peace, one where no one would ever again suffer under the thumb of tyranny. But Sarah and Commander X knew that the war had only ended because they had fought with everything they had. And they would continue to fight, for the future of Earth, and for the future of the galaxy. As the scene transitioned to Earth's rebuilt cities, workers and soldiers were seen rebuilding not just structures, but the very fabric of their society. The Earth of old was gone, but in its place was a new world, a world of possibilities. The loss of the war had been tragic, but the rebirth of Earth was a story of hope. The human race had not only survived but had emerged stronger and more determined than ever. Final shot. The camera panned up to the skies, where a fleet of Earth's new ships, sleek, advanced, and powered by human ingenuity, sailed into the unknown. These ships were different from the ones Earth had once relied on. They were built for exploration, for diplomacy, for the future. The fleet represented not just military might, but the spirit of discovery and progress. They were ready for the challenges that lay ahead, knowing that Earth's place in the galaxy had been earned, not given. As the ships sailed into the vast expanse of space, the screen faded to black. The sounds of the fleet's engines echoed in the silence of the unknown. And then, Sarah's voice, steady and resolute, cut through the silence. "We will fight for every future." The words lingered, a promise that Earth's victory was just the beginning. The journey was far from over. The universe was vast, and the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear: humanity would face whatever came their way, united and strong. The story of their triumph would echo through the stars, a reminder to all that humanity would never back down, no matter the odds. The screen faded completely to black, leaving only the sound of Sarah's voice, carrying the weight of an entire species' hope,